That's good.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on this video panel with three of our participating designers in the Fasten Off Yarnalong. My name is Josiane. Those of you who hang out on Discord know me as Kimianak. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be your host today. We're recording this session, posting it on YouTube. So I hope you have a great time watching the replay if you do watch afterwards. So I'll start by introducing our designers. Today we are lucky to have with us Connie from Crochet Etc., Nicola from Elimi Design, and Noriko from Norichan Knits. So please, I'll ask you to please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your design business, how you got started. Maybe you can start with Connie.
Sure. So my name's Connie Lee Lynch, and I have been crocheting since I was in my early 20s. Actually, my mother taught me when I was about 10, and I hated it. But I picked it back up in my early 20s, and I was started out just doing gift items, like I was doing baby gifts and things like that. So it was mostly blankets. And then I started doing scarves, and I would work from like the little stitch dictionaries, right? And so the more I did that, the more I got comfortable with the math aspect of kind of sketching out my own patterns. And one thing led to another, and I've kind of found myself designing without meaning to. But I got more serious about it after getting married, and we moved to Colorado. My husband was in the military, and I couldn't find a job right away. And I was like, you know what? I'll focus more of my time on crocheting. And my mother had kind of challenged me to start designing more, because I had been complaining to her about not being able to find something that I wanted. And she was like, just do it yourself. I'm like, no, I can't do that. But yeah, I had the time to work on it, and slowly I started doing it more and more. And then when I had my son, I was like, you know what, I really need to do something for me. And that's when I started publishing patterns regularly. I think I subscribed to like a yarn of the month club or something like that. And I kind of used that to kickstart as a challenge, like I'm going to get this surprise yarn in the month or in the mail every month. And what can I make with it? And since then, I kind of do that every once in a while to, get the creative juices flowing again. So
Nice way to
it's just,
challenge to challenge
yeah,
yourself. That's cool.
yeah.
Well,
So it's been a very slow process of just trying to find things that bring me joy, and then sharing it with others through the patterns that I publish.
that sounds fantastic. Nicola, what can you tell us about you and your design journey?
So I came to crochet quite late, I guess, compared to a lot of people. I didn't actually start crocheting until I started having children. So my little one, my eldest, was a couple of months old, and my grandmother turned up with this massive stack of blankets. And I was just like, you have to teach me. And unfortunately, we don't geographically live that close. So the next time that she visited, she bought me a hook, some yarn, and a book, and was like, there you go learn, do something. And just through trial and error and initially much swearing, I eventually learned to crochet. And I got more and more into it, and I was constantly making gifts to people. That was my favorite thing to do. And then my best friend got pregnant, and I said to her, right, I'm really confident now. What do you want? I will make you anything you want. And my friend, being quite arty, she's an architect, sent me a load of pictures, and I'm like, but that's not a pattern. I'm like, okay. So I decided to wing it and make something up. And it was about a year after I'd made that blanket for her that I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody else would like that pattern. I haven't seen anything like it. So I published it, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. Yeah, it looks like kids are great Kickstarters.
Yeah,
Wow.
my first like 4 or 5 patterns were all baby shower gifts that I was making. So they were all blankets for babies.
Neat, neat. What about you, Noriko?
Um, I mean, it was kind of organic too. I I've always been kind of like a mathematics type person, and like just kind of very logic based. And so, oh gosh, I guess it was about like 12 years ago or so when I started doing help for my friends. Like they'd be like, I don't understand this pattern. I just don't get what they're saying. And so I'd like read it through and I'd be like, oh, here, let me just rewrite it for you so that you actually understand it. And then I started actually testing patterns back then, and there would be times when I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't actually like, I think this is what you actually mean to say. And I would start like kind of reforming things. And it was finally when I bought a pattern and I got to the point of a V-neck sweater and it was bottom up and it just said, now decrease in pattern until the V is long enough. And I was like, what does that even mean? It was like a lace pattern, like all over lace pattern. And I was just supposed to figure out how to decrease in pattern on my own until the V was long enough for me. And I was like, well, you could tell me how much you did at bare minimum. I mean, it could be more or less if I wanted, sure, but what did you do? And it was a paid pattern, and I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm doing this. My friends had all been like already encouraging me at the time. So I put out a few patterns, and then in 2014, I got just kind of more serious. I was kind of burning out on my full-time job. I'm actually also an optometrist. And so medical burnout is a real thing. When you go into it, you don't realize the other aspects of being in the medical field. It's not just like the help that you think you want to bring to people. It's also a lot of people pleasing and being on like every 30 minutes all day long. And it turns out my personality is not suitable for that exact thing.
Mm.
And so I was like, yeah. And I submitted a pattern to a publication and I was accepted. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to submit another idea. And I think within my first year, I had like 5 or 6 patterns submitted to publications and they were all accepted. And I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And then in 2021, I had my kiddo, and I decided to go full-time designing. I I ended up also like I'd been working part-time at a yarn store also, and I stopped at the beginning of the pandemic just because everything stopped at the beginning of the pandemic. And I ended up going back there. So I do work part-time there, but I'm basically doing that and designing full-time with an occasional optometry gig like once a month or something like that. And so, yeah, yay.
That sounds like a great balance.
Yeah, it's so,
Much better for you.
yeah.
Yeah. And I love how it started from, and I can do better than that sentiment, you know, like I can do that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So the next question we had for you is how do you begin a new design? So maybe what is your process at the beginning? How do you get that started? Maybe what is the inspiration behind that? We can start with Nicola this time.
So mine is very hit and miss. There's a good proportion where I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing. The classical one being I was up in the middle of the night with a 3-month-old feeding them, and all of a sudden something just pops into your head and it sticks. And you're like, I have to do that. Like, I just have to make it. There's no choice. I have to get it out of my head and get on with it. And then you have the kind of other end of things where, you know, either you're doing it for a publication or there's an event going on. You're like, oh, I want to do something for that, when you have to stick to a theme. And the way that I have to do that is, you know, the whole mood boards and things, and getting inspiration. And I just find it very one or the other. I don't find that I fall in the middle very much. But once I have my idea, I'm very much, I would consider myself a process designer. So I write the entire pattern before I will touch the yarn, and then almost sort of proofread it and test it myself as I go through, before obviously you do all of the official testing and things. So yeah, I'm a bit backward, I guess, in that way, and I have to write it before I can make it. I can't seem to, in my head, do it the other way around.
That's very interesting, and I think that's actually a great way to go about it. Somehow, because I've heard from a lot of designers that, well, the fun bit was often doing the thing, and then writing the pattern was a bit of a slug. So you get that out of the way first, and then you get to the fun stuff. That's
exactly,
cool.
exactly. It is the fun bit, because then you get to go, right, what can I go buy? What yarn can I have?
And do you find that your patterns change or evolve as you finally touch the yarn and start making it? Or do you
Sometimes
stick
yes,
to
sometimes
the
no.
original? Okay.
It really depends on the design. I mean, I've had a couple where I've had to frog it about 50 times to get it to look right. Whereas I've had others where they've gone right first time and it's just been a dream. So it's very unpredictable.
Interesting. How about you, Noriko? How do you begin a new design?
Yeah. I mean, certainly for like the case of publications and things like that, yeah, they have a theme. So I get the idea first, and they're the ones that pick the yarn actually most of the time. So you don't even get the yarn until then. And then quite honestly, you have to make the yarn work for the publication because you already submitted this idea, right? Um, but I will say, especially nowadays where, I mean, 3-year-old running all over the place, I don't do publications because I don't want to run on a strict schedule. And so the inspiration is a lot more freeform. I've actually, like, I mean, like you said, kids are inspiration. Before I had a kid, I had no interest in designing any kid sweaters or anything like that. I just like, I didn't want to figure out sizing or things. And now I'm like, oh my God, how cute would it be to have a miniature version of my adult sweater version? And so now I have 2 of those because it's too cute. Um, so there's definitely a lot of that going on nowadays. I would say before, though, I definitely was more inspired by like colors and putting them together in unexpected ways, or putting colors that you wouldn't, most people wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, those are the colors I'm going to put together, or things like that. And how I can express the yarn itself. If you look through the history of my designs, you see lots of like vivid colors and stuff like that. And the that in and of itself was the inspiration. It's like, how can I make these colors come to life for a design that's still coherent? I love a good like variegated yarn. I know a lot of people are nervous about variegated yarns, and so trying to create a design where they still look good was the inspiration. And then in more recent years, especially since 2019 and onwards, I've been really digging deep into my own heritage for inspiration. I'm both Chinese and Japanese. My first name is Japanese, so it's very evident to a lot of people that I'm Japanese. My last name is Chinese, and so growing up, it was just very interesting, I guess you could say, finding myself always assimilating and doing things along those lines. And I can see that in my earlier patterns with the names of them and things like that. And now I have a design inspired by the merging of Chinese Japanese, and I named it after my grandma and grandpa, who are Japanese and Chinese. And so just letting myself be me a little bit more. Anime has been a very big inspiration for me also, which I always tried to hide before. And now I'm like, no, no, this is who I am. I like it. This is me. So it definitely went from like I'm going to do what they want me to do to this is what I want to do now. So yeah.
That sounds like a rich source of inspiration. I'm sure you won't lack in inspiration anytime soon. And how about you, Connie? What is your process like when you begin a new design?
So I touched on this a little bit earlier, talking about doing like the subscription boxes and stuff like that. And actually, I'm working on, this was my Christmas present to me. This was an Advent or a countdown box. So I really like going from yarn to design. It doesn't always work like that. I don't do a lot of publications either anymore, but I like to read the calls and look at the mood boards because it still sometimes sparks an idea. And I got into the habit of looking at them and coming up with an idea, and then I would submit the idea, and then even if the magazine said no, I was like, that's okay, I've got this fun idea, I can run with it now and self-publish. So I don't mind doing it that way, but I always feel more inspired starting with the color and the texture and how the yarn feels, and just sort of imagining what could this yarn grow up to be, and how can I really make it sing? So
I see that you
way.
also I see that you also teach crochet. Do you sometimes design things, especially because you want to teach something, a new technique to your students or something? Can that be the spark for new designs?
Yeah, absolutely. I taught in a local yarn store in Virginia for 3 years before COVID, and a lot of my designs at that time were things that came about from questions that students would ask, or like they wanted to try something, and so together we would create a project for them, and then sometimes I would turn it into a design. Now, since COVID, I don't teach in person anymore, unfortunately. Being a military spouse, we move every few years. And the last couple locations we've lived, there just haven't been any local yarn stores. So I haven't had much opportunity to teach in person anymore. I teach online a little bit, but not as much. I think everybody's kind of all zoomed out. I know we're on Zoom here. But yeah, I think people are kind of all zoomed out. It was really great during COVID that we had this capability to still connect and learn, and there were a lot of people who took advantage of that. But yeah, it's gotten quiet on the teaching front lately, and I miss it. I really do, because I got a lot of inspiration from my students. Definitely.
Cool. Well, I wish you can find that again sometime soon, or well, I'm sure you're not lacking in inspiration sources now that you're stationed in Hawaii. So
yeah, lots of colors to inspire me here. For sure.
Our next question was, what was your hardest pattern to design and why? So maybe I see Noriko thinking you could maybe get us started with that one.
Oh my gosh. What was my hardest one to design? Actually, I do have one. It was for a publication originally, and it is a cardigan. It's called Nightingale cardigan, and it's interesting writing for publications. They want a much more abbreviated pattern than a self-published design. And I get it. It was a physical publication. You can't have like 12 pages of design for a single pattern in something you're going to not know how well it's going to sell, and also multiple uh, uh, people in there also. So when I went to re-release it, I added sizes because the original was not as diverse sizing. And then as I went to do the testing, I realized that the self-publication patterns are just written so differently that a lot of people were struggling with the language that had originally been tech edited and everything. They weren't having troubles with numbers or anything like that, just the language, such as uh, there are two decreases in it, and the publication said use the one that's appropriate. Well, as a self-publication, it was the same thing as me later on or earlier on with the lace pattern, just, decrease in pattern, sure. And I ended up having to rewrite after the test had begun. I rewrote the entire pattern from almost scratch because I didn't have the sample anymore. I had given it away because I didn't fit it. It was made for a model, not me. And so I didn't have a reference to refer to. And I had written the pattern, I think like 4 years before for that publication. So it wasn't fresh in my mind anymore. And I just didn't have the time at the time to reknit it because said toddler. So a friend was reknitting it for me to take photos of, and I was like, and she's like super skilled, so she was able to just take the original pattern and like she knew what to do type of thing. And so I was like, oh, every inch of this is actually a little bit of a slog because I'm not remembering for myself when I had to do this. So I had to like literally do every single calculation and um, everything from scratch again. And then in the process, I realized that I had swapped from the Craft Yarn Council sizing chart, which is a little flawed, in all honesty, and had since swapped to I use Isolde's sizing chart for garments because more realistic numbers taken from real people. And anyway, I was like, why doesn't this make any sense? Why would I have done this width shoulder for this circumference? And I'm so confused. And then I realized I was still using the old chart, so I had to go back to that one and refigure that. That's definitely the hardest one I've done.
Yep, sounds like quite a bit of a challenge, but it was worth it in the end. I
It
guess
was
it's a gorgeous
definitely.
cardigan.
Thank you.
How about you, Connie? Anyone comes to mind? Any specific design?
So it's funny that yours was a magazine, like a redo for a magazine. I had a magazine pattern that almost made me quit, like altogether. The sample was made, it was mailed in, the pattern was written, and it was in the hands of the tech editor. And I think what happened was there was a miscommunication on how it was actually like constructed, like how it was supposed to work. And, she was most of her experience was in knitted designs, and this was crochet. And so I think that was where the problem was, because at some point I was like, it sounds like you want me to completely rewrite this pattern. I can't do that. There's no time. You already have the sample. I can't count stitches, on the sample anymore. This is, we either have to quit or we have to come to an agreement. And it was really difficult for me. She was a well-respected editor, and I was overwhelmed and frustrated, and quite honestly, I kind of felt embarrassed, like I was failing as a designer, that we couldn't make this work. But eventually we worked it out and it got published, and so it's out there. But honestly, because of that experience, I don't know if I want to try to self-publish. Because I'm afraid that going back into it would kind of bring back all of that emotion from working on it with a magazine. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever go back to it and self-publish, because I would definitely do it differently than it ended up in the magazine.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, the project itself wasn't difficult to design, but like that process with
part of
working
the
with someone
process,
else,
yeah,
it almost made me quit. I was
wow.
this close to just being done.
I'm glad you worked it out. It came out and you kept going as a designer, because it wouldn't have been worth quitting over one miscommunication, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I can totally understand how hard it must have been, though. Yeah, sorry to hear that. How about you, Nicola? Any one of your design was especially hard to design, an idea that didn't want to?
The one that I had to frog about 50 times is the one that comes to mind. And looking at it, you wouldn't think that it would have caused me so many problems. I mean, most of my patterns are reasonably straightforward once I've written them. But of course, part of my process is that I write out the whole thing. So then every time I had to change it, it had knock-on consequences on the rest of the design. And it was very frustrating. It was my Amore Hearts baby blanket, which was my first pattern that I designed myself, that was in the round. And for some reason, I was just having so many problems getting the motif to look how it was in my head. First, it was too narrow, then it was too long, and then the tension was off. And oh my gosh, it just the sheer frustration, and how many times I'd get this is looking fine, this is looking fine. And then all of a sudden you'd get to a different point and I'd be like, no, this is not fine. I need to frog it all back and start again, because I can't just fix it from where I am. Like I have to go back and fix it earlier. So that was definitely the one that took me the longest to make, proportionate to how difficult the design looks. It looks really easy, and crocheting it once the pattern was done is really easy, but for some reason it caused an awful lot of hiccups.
That's often the mark of someone who really masters their craft, making look easy something that is not making all the difficult stuff that's happened before disappear, and just we just see the easy bit.
Exactly. It's like some of my other designs look so much harder, but were so much easier to crochet. It was just, I don't know, my brain just couldn't compute the two together.
Interesting.
Nicola, I had one like that too, actually. It was and it was hard because I was trying to maximize the use of the yarn. Like I had this vision in mind, and the only issue was like, figuring out how wide and how long in order to do the thing that I wanted to do. And I had to pull it out so many times because it just wasn't working out right. And It's one of my simplest designs.
And that's the most frustrating thing as a designer, is when you really want to make something, you can't let it go. You have to fix it.
Well done, because that's a fun design and it looks really cool. Yeah. So the next question we had is, how do you keep up your motivation during the testing and writing stage? Connie, would you like to start us off with that one?
Sure. So I actually tend to write my patterns now as I'm crocheting them. I'll usually start out swatching to kind of make sure that I know how the yarn is going to behave and get going with it. But then a lot of times I will go ahead and write out the rest of the pattern from there. I just use Google Sheets now, or Google Docs now, to draft out my patterns there. And so that makes it pretty easy to go in and make adjustments as I work on it. So like this one is, you know, I'm writing it as I go. And so I just have to go in and add in stitch counts and how many rows I end up getting with each mini skein as they get narrower and narrower. But the pattern's basically already written. But when I started out, I couldn't do that. Like I had to like bang it out with the yarn and the hook all first. I couldn't write it ahead of time, but with practice, I've gotten where I can kind of envision and write at the same time. And that's made the process a lot easier. I could never do the whole thing and then go back and write the pattern though. I couldn't ever do that. I wouldn't get the right stitch counts. I would forget something that I did. I would never be able to do it that way. I know some people make their whole sample, even garments, they make the whole thing and then they go and write the pattern, and I couldn't do it. I could not do it that way.
Yeah, so writing as you go is the way to go for you.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is, because it keeps me focused in that moment of creation. And then once I get that sorted out, then I can just go and the rest of it's pretty easy. So
Neat. So Nicola, we know that you write beforehand,
Yes.
but that helps for sure. And is the testing phase a spot in the process, a place in the process where your motivation dips? Or because I've heard from some designers that testing is the most joyful part of it, because they finally get to see their design come to life in someone else's hands, but some other designers find it more challenging. So what is it like for you?
I find it, unfortunately, a little bit hit and miss. For me, motivation wise, although I get a bit like, come on, it's done, it's ready. I can get over that because I just designed something else. And so whenever I've got something in testing, you know, I've always got another pattern that I'm working on. And so I don't mind that aspect of it. And yes, I love at the end of testing when you see them all and you're just like, I never pictured it like that, but it looks really good. And I'm like, go with it. Like I give my my pattern testers a good amount of liberty in that I'm like, you know, as long as you're following the pattern, you know, I don't care what colors you use or if you change the weight of the yarn or whatever, because the stuff that I'm doing, it doesn't make that much difference to me. As long as, you know, they're following the actual instructions so I know if there's an error. The bit where I get frustrated and find really difficult is when people just ghost me. So I don't mind if, you know, somebody emails me and goes, oh, I'm really sorry, you know, I'm unwell, or so-and-so's unwell and I just can't, or this has happened. I'm like, I get it, life happens, you know, just do what you can. And if you have to stop, you have to stop. I really find it frustrating when people say they're going to do it or have even done parts of it and then don't respond to anything. It's just, I'm like, I've put so much effort into this and it's so hard to recruit people sometimes that you then feel like, oh, I'm like, okay, do I now have enough testers to get to the end of testing, or do I need to recruit all over again? And that's the little bit that I find frustrating.
Yeah, that can be a little hard on your motivation. I can imagine. Yeah. How about you, Noriko?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I used to write as I went, and now I'm finding just my brain chemistry after having a kid is that's not as viable. So I am doing a lot more writing beforehand, doing a swatch, measurements, and then the writing, and then altering as needed type of thing. So I actually enjoy writing the pattern. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of fun for me. And I'm trying to think, I mean, yeah, definitely testing has its ups and downs. I love it when testers are super excited about like how their project's going or things like that. I will say that particular, the Nightingale cardigan was one of the most frustrating tests because it was just so disheartening to see how many people were struggling with a pattern that I thought was fine because at one point it had been tech edited. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure it's great. It's gotta be fine. And then I was like, oh, you're having problems? Oh no. Okay, let me go look at that. And then someone else would be like, oh, I'm having problems at this point. And I'd be like, wait, really? That's not even the same point. You would expect like
Mhm.
tricky points to almost always be the same place, and then I'd fix that place type thing. And so it was like very, very like I could feel myself sinking in like, oh no, oh no. And then in contrast, I did the Nightingale pullover, and because I had written that one from scratch as a self-published pattern to begin with, like it was just for the most part flowing and people were just excited and happy. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is the great part of like designing, seeing people excited and happy about your design. Like I feel like there's almost nothing better than seeing someone's finished project and they're like you're proud for them, they're proud for that. Like everything about it is just happiness. So I feel like, yeah, there can be some moments of disheartening or almost a slog feeling, especially since if you're doing garments, like 3 months is a long time to wait to be able to put something out, but you also want to be able to have people have time to finish and stuff like that. I I usually give 3 months because knitting also can take a bit longer than crochet, and sweaters are a big undertaking for sure. But I will say one thing that has been helping is I have someone helping me moderate tests and things like that. So when I do tests now, I check in maybe like once a week, and then I have someone else like reading the daily updates of, and if there's an issue or something's popping up, then they contact me to let me know. And that really, really, really helps me because then I get to jump in a week and be like, oh, look at this progress that's been made. Like, oh, I get to be like the cheerleader a little bit more, unless there, of course, is an issue that pops up and then I'll hop on extra. But because of that, I think that helps me get through tests a lot more too. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that sounds like a great strategy. Neat. So our next question is, do you try to find your niche or are you just designing what you want to make? Maybe we could start with you, Noriko.
Yeah. I mean, I think I touched upon this a little earlier, with like trying to design for me, and what do I want to wear, or like uh for example, right this second, I am uh okay, I'm doing two things. One of them is going through old, like super duper old patterns and being like, is this up to standards? It's kind of fun to reknit them or make them because I can see where I've grown as a designer, which is actually kind of fun. But also, for whatever reason, I don't like a lot of layers. I can't really wear more than two maximum layers on my arms. It really bothers me. And because of the cooler weather, I'm just like, I need more vests. Okay, I'm going to make a vest. And one of my designs, actually, I'm going back to the Nightingale family. I'm like, oh, yeah. Actually, I think I can alter that pretty easily to make a vest. So, like, which yarn am I going to use? Let's go. Um, and so that's, I think you may see a couple vest patterns coming out.
So you tend to start from your needs
Yeah.
and your wants. That sounds cool. How about you, Connie?
So I don't know how this works for knitters, but I've tried asking my audience, what do you want? What do you want to see? What do you need? And it's like nobody wants to answer the question. And it's the same thing with classes, your crochet classes. And I've talked to event organizers who are like, how do we get more crocheters in here? What sort of classes? And it's like they don't want to answer them. So I have recently actually decided, well, okay, if nobody wants to talk to me about what they want to see or what they want to make, then I guess I'll just lean into my own intuitions and just play with the yarn and see what happens and go from there. So yeah, I guess I'm just open to the adventure, and if I end up in a specific niche, then that's where I'll be. But I'm not trying to find one.
So making what you like and finding the people who like the same things.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
That's where I'm at right now anyway.
Yeah, that's a good place to be. And what's it like for you, Nicola?
So I agree with the comment about crickets. You know, you try asking people what they want, and about 2 people reply. So it has very much been leaning into things that I like and leaning into experimentation. So I started out with blankets because blankets are what I love, and it was what I made the most of just for myself. And my sort of niche-ish is the fact that I like color work and filet. So all of my designs have those in some way, shape, or form, kind of as a central component. And then when I'd made half a dozen blankets, I was like, okay, let's just try something else and see how that goes. And I went through a period of about 18 months, 2 years of experimenting and trying things and going, actually, no, I don't like doing that, or I do like doing this, or let's do more of that. To the point now where I'm still sticking with my color work and my filet, but as of now, I am all blanket. I'm like, I've had enough of the experimenting. I've tried all the things that I want to try. This is what I love. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm hoping that I will then accumulate people who equally love blankets.
That sounds like a plan. You know, if you keep doing them, you'll keep attracting people who want them. So.
Exactly.
Neat. And the last pre-prepared question we had is coming. So we have a tiny, small live audience. So I'll just ask them that if they have questions for our designers afterwards, they can put them in the chat or raise their hands once we're done with this last question, which is in a sense, asking you for a bit of a scoop. So what are we going to see from you next? Let's go with Connie.
Well, did we hear from Noriko about the last question?
Yes, we got started with her.
Oh, okay. I'm just in my own little world then. Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Okay, so I'm actually going to one of our neighbor islands next month. I'm going to Molokai for an artist residency program with the Molokai Arts Center there. I'll be there for a couple of weeks, and so that's going to be a fun little deep dive into just absorbing all the inspiration that I can on the island and connecting with the local people. And I'm really excited to see what comes from that. I'm going to take some yarn. I'm going to take some fiber because I spin a little bit. I'm going to take my paints and my sketchbook, and I'm just going to kind of dive into that and see what comes from it. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's my next big thing.
That sounds wonderful. And in the meantime, do you have a design that's in the works already? Something in testing, or?
I don't have anything in testing right now. This past year, I've been very computer adverse. So all of my design work has just been like blog format shared with my members on Patreon. So I have not actually had any patterns in the testing phase for publication in about a year. But I mean, I'm always designing something. I mean, this is a design, and I've got another one sitting right here next to me. And I do have a magazine publication expected out in 2025 with Spin-Off Magazine. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Nice. We'll keep an eye out for it. Yeah, thank
All
you.
right.
And how about you, Noriko? What's coming next?
Um, Actually, mostly I'm focusing this moment on some knit-along based stuff. I started off with the Fasten Off, but actually with my Patreon group, I'm doing this fun one where I gave them a list of yardage requirements for every month of next year, and then I'm going to gift all of my paid tiers a pattern of the month, and it will match that yardage. And I'm suggesting that they get bags and put like the yardage requirements into a bag labeled like January, February, March. And then we're going to do a Patreon held on my Nori-chan Knits Patreon Discord group. We're going to do a knit along each month of that, and it'll be like a little surprise every month. And uh, like just motivation for the full year. I also just like you don't know how it's going to turn out, and so I think that's going to be fun. I'm going to use it to bust out some not patterns, presents for the end of the year. That way I can start at the beginning of the year instead of pretending like I can actually knit 5 hats in a week. Um, so that's one big one. And then I know I keep talking about Nightingale, but I'm actually doing a knit along for it starting January 20th. And then it'll run for 3 months, and you can do either the cardigan or the pullover. And the indie yarn dyer I worked with, Sea Change Fibers, is donating presents or prizes for it, and that one will be available for anyone, and I'll run it in a public Discord group. And if someone wanted to, like, if people don't want to join Discord, they can also join in on Instagram. So, yeah.
That sounds wonderful. I love the community knit along idea that you had. Is that the first time you're doing that with your community?
That one is the first like of that type. I've done Patreon mystery alongs. It makes me nervous to do a mystery along for like everyone. I don't know why, but for some reason my Patreon group feels really safe, and and so I have done 2 of those, and I usually do them as summer events because I feel like in the summer you need more motivation to keep like doing some toasty activities, and so I have done that with them, and but I thought this one might be more like kind of low-key fun. If you end up not liking the pattern that month, no big deal. You can take a month off, but then the next month you'll have a new inspiration. And I don't know. I like little mini surprises. I think that's why people like things like the countdown calendars and stuff. And so I was like, oh, this can be like a mini surprise all year round. And yeah.
And does it feel challenging for you having to come up with a design a month for the whole year?
Oh, well, actually, what I'm doing is I'm digging into my older patterns for it, and um, it- like I'm using this as a way to rewrite some of my old patterns, make sure that my older patterns are also tech edited because early on I wasn't tech editing. And I'm converting all of them to also have a low vision screen reader applicable version. And so this is also pushing me to kind of advance my patterns in ways that otherwise they'd probably just sit there and like, you know, they don't get the attention because they're earlier patterns and stuff. So I'm revamping them. Some of them are also getting new yarn. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, that's a great way for you to get yourself to do that without, putting as much pressure on you as if it was all new designs. That's brilliant. I love that. How about you, Nicola? What's coming soon from you? What can we expect to see next?
The big thing that I have coming up is I have a collaborative crochet along starting on January 1st. The design officially gets revealed even on Wednesday, but I have it on my lap. Now, I have no idea how well you're going to be able to see this because I'm pretty close to the camera, but I'll give you a quick kind of peek of the blanket. It is big, but it is a year-long crochet along. So there's plenty of time to make it.
It looks huge. It looks like, yeah,
And I
lots
do
of color
small.
work fun. And I've
Yeah.
seen stuff about each season.
So it's based on the months of the year.
Nice. I like that concept.
Thank you.
Any other design in the works or?
I do have another design in testing, and I have another one about to go into testing, which as per my kind of niche are kind of color work patterns as well. One of them is mosaic and one of them is corner to corner. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to sharing them with everyone.
Awesome. So it would be time for questions from the audience. If we don't have any, I can keep going with a small, maybe last question that, let's see. Now that knitting or crochet is like your business, your work, do you still do it for fun? Do you still have fun doing it? I see you laughing, Nicola. Go ahead.
Yes, is the answer. I do it because I love it. But equally, especially at this time of year, it's so relaxing to just follow a pattern and not have to think about it because somebody else has done all the the brain work, especially for stuff that I'm like, no, I'm not designing that. So if it's a garment, especially if it's something like a sock, I'm like, there's no way I'm designing it, but I really like making them. So yeah, and it doesn't hurt that I'm learning to knit, so that's kind of completely separate to the business anyway. So yeah, nice. Definitely don't stop.
Nice. So how about you, Connie? Still crocheting, knitting, spinning for fun?
So I knit something about once a year, maybe every other year. It just, I don't know, it ends up making my hands hurt, and there's just something about it that doesn't work as well for me. But every once in a while, I give it another go. If I ever feel like I'm in a rut, I will splurge on something like a kit or a themed box from an indie dyer or something like that. And a lot of times that will kind of, that excitement of getting something like that in the mail will kind of encourage me to get back into designing. So yeah, I mean, it ebbs and flows, but I still do it because I enjoy it.
Nice. And you, Noriko, are you still able to have it as a hobby, or do you need something?
I mean, I definitely do. I feel like because time became more limited with kiddo and everything, that it definitely is harder to finish the things that I'm knitting for fun. I certainly start a lot of things for fun. And I have bought a number of patterns recently because, yeah, exactly what Nicola said. It's like, oh, it's so nice that I didn't have to think about this. That's the number I have to cast on. Excellent. And I feel like also in a really cool way, doing that teaches you things that, oh, actually, that's an interesting way of writing that. Or, oh, that formatting really works. I really liked that aspect. So in a weird way, doing something for fun can still be like a really big learning experience, and keep me kind of like going as a designer also, which in a weird way is also counterintuitive since I'm supposed to be literally doing it for fun. But you know, it all comes back to it. Yeah. I've talked about burnout on my Patreon before. And uh it can be really tricky to balance doing your hobby for a work thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've shared your website addresses in the chat, and I will ask you just before we go, what is the best way for people to get updates or keep up with what you're doing? Which place do you like them to go? You know, do you prefer to have people go to your Instagram, newsletter, Patreon? Which one do you prefer, Connie?
As far as social media goes, I find myself on Instagram more than any place else. I also enjoy spending time with my folks over on Patreon. A newsletter is a great way to stay in touch if you're not into the social sites though. So yeah, all of those.
All of those are good for you. Great. So we'll send people that way. Noriko, which is there a place that's best to keep in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say Instagram is definitely the go-to for me. It's where I'd post any like this is what will be coming out, or these are some events I'm doing. I certainly post about them also on my Patreon, but I understand the restriction on that as well. I don't post everything I'm doing uh, on the free tier. You certainly can follow me on that level as well. And I'll post a lot of updates there, but you'd find out potentially sooner about some things on Instagram. And I keep thinking about a newsletter and then I end up like stalling out. I'm hoping this is the year I'll figure it out.
Let's hope so. But it can be hard sometimes, you know, with so many channels to keep up. One has to choose which one suits them best. So there you go, Instagram and Patreon for you. Nicola, what's the best way to keep in touch with you?
Definitely my newsletter. It's the one place where you know it's coming. You don't have to fight the algorithm. As long as you can get it past your spam filter, you're getting it every week. So you won't miss any of the updates.
Fantastic. So that's clear and precise to keep in touch with Nicola through her newsletter. So we're pretty much at the hour. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. A big thanks to our designers today, Connie, Nicola, and Noriko. We hope you enjoyed today's designer video panel, and please do check out our Fasten Off Yarnalong schedule for more events and activities because it's not over yet. So thanks everyone and see you. Bye.